Hello, my friends. Hello, it's Matthew Street, and welcome to my channel. I truly appreciate you being here. Folks, whether you celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas, or for that matter, we all celebrate a birthday, right? We all have that in common. But regardless of what it is, think of that birthday, that special birthday when you were young, or Hanukkah, or Christmas, when you wanted a certain present and you received it. Or was there waiting for you on Hanukkah or Christmas morning when you got up and it was under the tree? Or you opened that big gift or that little gift on your birthday, and there it was, something so cool, so special, something you thought it was so unique and brought so much joy to you. Think of those feelings when you were a kid or even a teenager, or even now as adults, when you get something you really love. Well, folks, can you remember the time when you got your first Beetle Boots? Oh yes, we all had them. And folks, I'm sorry, you're probably all out there like, huh? What's he talking about? I haven't seen many people walking around since I was young in the 70s wearing Beetle Boots, and certainly not in the 80s, 90s, or well, a little bit now. They've kind of come back in vogue. I'm not talking about these kind of Beetle Boots, folks. Okay, and I've got one back here too. Not these kind of Beetle Boots. Although I think these are the coolest things on the planet, all right, for my money. If I could get away as a 61-year-old man walking around wearing these, I would do it, folks. But, I might get those stares from people, so I don't do it too often. But I love having my Beetle Boots, just knowing I have them. No. Those aren't the Beetle Boots I'm talking about, folks. I was going through some stuff the other day. You reorganize, you reshuffle, you put things away, you clean up your mess or whatever. Anyway, I came across a couple of things that just brought back so many good memories for me, and I just thought I'd share it with you. Maybe this might spark some fun memories in you. Those of you that are very, very young, though, I don't know, maybe under 35 or so, or maybe under 40, I don't know. This may not have the same meaning for you because we live in an age now as Beatle fans where the cornucopia of and volume of cool stuff we've received going back to 1994 with the BBC album, the first one, and then starting up a year later with Anthology 1, 2, and 3. And since then, the floodgates have opened, folks. I mean, think about all we've received. I mean, I can't even name, we'd be here all day, me trying to name all the cool Beatles releases that have happened since that first BBC and Anthology came out in the mid-90s. Think about it. And culminating with the recent Peter Jackson documentary, almost 8-hour, whatever it was, documentary of Get Back. In like vivid 4K, pristine condition, visually, audio-wise. I mean, folks, it's been almost 30 years since that first BBC album came out, and we've received so much. I think sometimes but also I think the younger people take for granted those lean years, because to get something new, special, and unique out of the Beatles or Apple or whatever was like almost unheard of. I mean, yeah, we had our releases in the 70s with the Red and Blue album, and we did get rock and roll music and then love songs and a few, those things. I've talked about them before in videos. But to get something special, something you felt like nobody else had, or very few people had, that was rare. That was hard back in those lean years before the mid-90s. Certainly in the 70s and 80s. And so, folks, I thought I'd talk about my first Beetle Boots. And no, not those. Okay. The first Beetle Boot I ever got was in a mail order thing in the back of a comic book, or maybe it was a music magazine, or one of those early 70s, mid-70s Beatles magazines. And they advertised several of them, but back in those years, when I was just a kid, I couldn't afford what I can now as far as purchasing things or getting, copies of different things I want as far as the Beatles. But I had to make a choice. They gave a list of all these cool, unreleased recordings you could get. And I went through them all, and I don't know what made me choose this, but I was about 12 or 13 years old, and this is the one I chose. and I still have it to this day. I took it out of its little sleeve, so that's why this is loose. Folks, this blank piece of cardboard with this put under the shrink wrap was my first ever Beatles bootleg album on vinyl. Here it is, right here. It's called just The Beatles. Okay. But then down below in the little print there, you can see what I chose. I know I'm having a tough time holding it steady for you. All right. Anyway, I'll read it to you, okay? Basically, it's, and I can't see it with my visions going, recorded July 23rd, 1964 at the Hollywood Bowl. Okay, I think that date is off, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Beatles did not record a concert at the Hollywood Bowl on July 23rd. However, it is, in fact, the complete 1964 Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl show. And it's fantastic. I mean, the sound stinks for the time. This is like early to mid 70s. But folks, I love it so much because the sentimental value, and on an old faded sleeve with a blank. I even had to write the numbers on it. As you can see, a little number 1 there on that side. And on side 2, I wrote a little number 2 in my old pre-teen or young teen handwriting because I wanted to remember which side was which because they didn't label the darn thing. So I found that and I said, geez, wow, your first Beetle Boots. I mean, folks, I'd love to hear some of your stories about some of your earliest Beetle Boots that you got. Are you old enough to do what I did back in the 70s and purchase them like that out of a comic book or a Beatles magazine, and you paid your few bucks, which was like your whole allowance for like 2 weeks or whatever, or you're doing your paper route, and you'd get something like that. And when that came in the mail, folks, I can't tell you how excited and thrilled I was. My first ever mail order Beatles bootleg album. It was like, I was holding a piece of gold when this arrived. It was like the greatest thing ever. This is long before Hollywood Bowl came out, live at the Hollywood Bowl in 77, and I thought this was the cat's meow. I just thought it was the greatest thing. I played it over and over again, and I thought I was like the young Beatle fan who had the most unique thing in the world. You know, I know other Beatle fans probably had it, certainly those older than me, but I thought that was the greatest thing. So then it got me thinking, what were some of my first Beatles boots on CD? Well, I can remember my first one, folks. I never play it anymore because the quality is horrible, horrible. But here it is right here. I got this in early 1987, I want to say. And it's called the Live Beatles 70 Minutes Playtime. Okay, here's the cover. Here's the back, and I'll tell you, I don't know how good that's going to come across. But basically, folks, it's the Beatles live in Japan in 1964. That's what it says, okay? Now, okay, we know the Beatles did not play in Japan in 1964. It was 1966. But basically what this is, despite the typographical error, it's both recorded shows of the Beatles in Japan. You get the tracks 1 through 11 are the first show, and tracks 12 through 22 are the second show. Says import. It's got a little import sticker down the bottom there. But that's basically what it is, folks. And it's probably taken right off crappy 8mm or whatever they had available, or videotape at the time in the late 80s. And so the sound quality is horrible. It also, this company advertises a Bob Dylan one on the back there and some others. But this is one of the earliest Beatles CD bootlegs that I ever got. This is the first, actually. This is my first. I was in a mom and pop record store looking for stuff back in the day, like I said, early 87, and saw this. It was behind the glass under the counter, meaning like they thought, and folks, I think I paid a fortune for this, or a fortune at the time for, 1987, but this was expensive. I forget what I paid for it now, but it might have been like $30 or something, and I just was like, oh my goodness, that seems so astronomical, but I had to have it because it was like the first ever Beatles bootleg on CD. This is only a year or two after CDs came out, And I just thought I had to have it. Now, I keep it for posterity only, for sentimental reasons, because it is the first, but I never listened to it. The quality, the sound is horrible. They basically just took the sound off an old VHS videotape and slapped it on here. But as sentimental, I love having it. And some of my other earlier bootlegs that came within a year or so after that one, or within into late '87 going into '88, were stuff like there was a series out where they called it the Capitol Years, and you could get 2 Beatles Capitol albums on one. It's so hard to see the way they printed this gold on orange. I mean, who does that? It's horrible. But look at even the label. It's just horrible. But this one's basically Beatles 65 and Beatles 6, if you can't see it, on one CD. And the quality's, I don't know how they transferred it, but it's certainly not like it is now, with the Capitol albums that came out. So that's one of my first. Another one of my first is this one. It's just called Songs from the Past, Volume 1. I got this way back. Basically, it's Let It Be session stuff, folks. And you know what? The quality's not bad. I don't need to listen to it now with what we've received in recent years. But, for back in the day, this was pretty cool, late 80s, to have this. Not a bad little CD to have. Another one of my earliest was this one, the Beatles Decca Sessions 1162. This came out in '88. I got this. It says import. Again, quality's fair. But I keep these things because they just mean a lot to me. I'll never listen to them again. There's no need to. And on this one, you only get the 12 songs. Yeah, they couldn't even put the Beatle cuts on it. And my last two I want to show you is this one's kind of cool now that we've gotten it officially, but the Get Back album, late 80s. Yeah, you got, and then you get the Rooftop Concert right off videotape, I'm sure there. But, kind of unnecessary now, but the Martin mix, it's called. I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably something else. But anyway, it's so old, I don't listen to it and don't need to now. And one of my favorites was this one, Backtrack. I got this in the late 80s, one of my earliest bootlegs. And wow, look at the things you get on this, folks. You get so much material on it. I'll do my best here. I know the reflection's horrible, but I mean, now it's all been there, done that. We've gotten a lot of this officially now, but back in the day, this was something. To get this was like huge, huge. So that's it, folks. Just thought I'd come visit with you for a little bit, say hello for a few minutes, talk about my earliest Beetle Boots. Folks, you can't beat them. Let me hear some of your stories. What were some of your earliest boots, vinyl or CD? Bring back a lot of memories for me, because boy, when you got that, when you walked into the store and got something like this, you thought you had something special, something that was like a piece of gold, so valuable, so unique. And now, I mean, we're kind of spoiled with what we've received over the last 30, 35 years or more. But boy, can't beat those early days, getting those first Beetle Boots, folks. Can't beat it. Anyway, folks, that's it. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Love you. Bye-bye.